Hello everybody, Von Rich here with albums that I played 100 times. That's 10 times 10. Now, Randall Weaver, I think it's a contest. I don't know. Doesn't matter to me. When he first announced this, I thought, man, 100 times, that's a lot. And there's been a lot of people jumping on. And someone explained to me, if there's a record that you've played 20 times, 5 different years, that's 100. I thought, man, you know what? There's a lot of albums that I played 100 times. There's a lot. Especially in the 60s. You didn't have that many records, so definitely all the Beatle records I played 100 times. Definitely the 3 Jimi Hendrix Experience records. But I'm not going to be that obvious. Now, I had to restart this. As soon as I started filming it, the mailman came and the dog started going crazy. Son of a bitch. But anyways, Blockhead, your package came. Okay, the first one I'm showing. The Monkees, Meet the Monkees. When Last Train to Clarksville came out on the radio, man, I go, it's a great song, pop rock song. And this album is full of them. I didn't like Gonna Buy Me a Dog back then, but I kind of dig it now, Now, I probably listened to this 100 times in 1966 when it came out. By 1968, I probably didn't listen to this once that year, Another album I listened to 100 times easily is Mother Mania, the best of the mothers. Now, the one I wanted to show is actually the one I played the most out of those mothers, was We're Only in It for the Money. But I don't know where I put it. I don't know. I don't know if I made a video comparing that to the Sgt. Pepper's cover and I stuck it somewhere, and I can't find it. I even played that thing. I used to pick up my daughter. She hated the Mumskin vocals on We're Only in It for the Money. And I used to pick her up. I'd roll the windows down. I'd be playing that. And she used to get so embarrassed. But yeah, the mothers. In fact, I just did that video. Records a 13-year-old Richie was listening to. And the mothers definitely could have been on that one. Now we're going to the 70s. We got the Yes album. This is my favorite Yes album, the Yes album. I did get Fragile after this. I didn't like it as much. I mean, it has 4 great songs, or is it 5? I don't know. But a bunch of kind of crap in between. And Close to the Edge, I like that one. I like that one more than Fragile, actually. But I purged those 2. I only have the first 3 Yes, and I have the one with the naked guy on the front. Because when I play records, I like to look at the cover. I like looking at that guy's ass, But yeah, the Yes album. John Lennon, Imagine. This is an album I played easily 100, just as I did the Plastic Ono Band and just as I did Life, Peace in Toronto. I was a big John Lennon fan. And yeah, this is a great album. The song Imagine really isn't indicative of what the whole album sounds like. It's a little rawer than that. And probably my favorite song is How Do You Sleep? Now, the Paul McCartney album that I've played more than any other by far, well, I don't know about by far, but probably. It's actually a Wings album. It's Wings Wildlife. And side 1 of this I played all the time. I love side 1. You got Mumble, Bip Bop, Love is Strange, and then Wildlife. I really dug it. It's the simplicity of it. I really dug it back then, and I guess I was always kind of wired for punk, The simplicity of that really spoke to me. And yeah, I dig this album more than Band on the Run and Venus and Mars, and way more. Pink Floyd, Obscured by Clouds. This is one I played easily 100 times. I was into Pink Floyd in the early 70s. And This is the album that came out before Dark Side of the Moon. I did not buy Dark Side of the Moon when it came out. In fact, I didn't buy Dark Side of the Moon until the 2017 reissue came out, and I didn't buy that until a couple years after that came out. Never had it on cassette, never had it on CD. I mean, it's a good album. It's a great album, but back then I really liked this band, and then Dark Side of the Moon came out, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry loved that album. You know, it just, and it's kind of weird, but even back then when I was a teenager, I was a pretentious asshole, you know. Next one, Loggins and Messina. This is one that might surprise people, but I really dig Loggins and Messina. Now, when they broke up, Kenny Loggins, he blew up, and his stuff is horrible. I bought the first Jim Messina album, and it's horrible. But together, man, they made some really good albums. This is the best of the bunch, and this is the one I played the most. Probably Sailing would be the second one that I played the most, the one where they're on a boat. But on that one, there's a couple of songs where you can hear the fingers moving on the fret of the guitar, and it's always bothered me. Now, I played this 100 times easily the summer it came out. Bob Marley and the Wailers, Rostamon Vibration. This is the album that I've played more than any Bob Marley album by far. It's the first one I ever bought, and yeah, I dig it, man. All the way through. My favorite Bob Marley album. Station to Station by Bowie. I played this hundreds of times, easily. Maybe 1,000, man. There's a lot of those 70s Bowie albums I played 100 times easily, but this one I probably played the most. Maybe with Aladdin Sane and Ziggy Stardust, those three. But this is a great album, man. Now the last song that ends each side is kind of wankery. He's doing that, trying to be the new Frank Sinatra of rock or something. Brothers Johnson, great album. They do a cover of Come Together by the Beatles. That's not a good idea. Let's just put it this way. I don't suggest any band go out and try and do a cover of Come Together. But they really pulled it off. But the one on here, man, is Get the Funk Out My Face. And then Thunder Thumbs and Lightning Licks. It's a great album, man. The next one I bought, Strawberry 23, is it? Strawberry Letter 23. I like that one, but it didn't get near as much play as this. A weird band that came out in the later 70s, and one I played a lot, was Devo. Are We Not? Man, We Are Devo. This is the UK version, I guess. This is the one I saw first. Saw the cover, bought it, and man, I loved it. It's a little more guitar-oriented than their later stuff. The Police. This is my favorite Police album, and I played this one a lot. I thought the first album was pretty good, but this one I think is great. And I like this better than their most popular albums. Message in a Bottle, Waiting on the Moon. I saw them when they were touring for this album, and they were fantastic. And they were loud. They did not sound like the other record. Elvis Costello, this is a great album. This, in the late 70s, this may be the one I played more than anything, to be honest. I loved every song in this. And I saw this guy touring for this album. Or it could have been his second album. But yeah, the Attractions were a great band live. Now, another one that might surprise some people, I didn't have any of their albums, but I had this 6-song, 10-inch EP by Squeeze. And I guess it's songs from their first 2 albums. And it's fantastic, man. I really dug it. Squeeze. A very cool cover there, you know. One that came out in 1979 is by the Weirdos. Weirdos 79. Who, what, where, when, and why is it? Yeah. Just this is a 6-song EP also. It's a great. Every song in this is just fantastic. Highly recommend. Anybody that's into 70s punk, you need this record. Another one that when I heard Rock Lobster on the radio, I go, oh man, that's fantastic. I think I might have heard it first on Rodney on the Rock, and then K-Rock started playing it, and then it blew up, man. And side 1 is fantastic. Side 2 has one of the best songs though, 6060842. But yeah, this is great. And still my favorite. We got Wall of Voodoo. I just talked about them on my last Vinyl Finds. This is their debut EP, and I guess it just got released on Record Store Day. And I guess the list price was $29.98, which I think is a lot for an EP. But stores were charging $39.99, and even one store was charging $43 for that. I thought that Record Store Day there was like they tried to, you had to agree to you could only mark it up like a certain percentage, you know. Another one, Prince. I had his earlier albums, but they were okay. This one is fantastic. Every song, the flow. I think it's his best album. Prince, Dirty Mind. And I saw him on that opening for the Stones, touring for that one. A band I wish I would have saw. I probably bought this the year after it came out, because I know I was single when I bought this. I think it came out in 80, and I bought it probably in 81. This is Lakeside, fantastic Voyage. I really dug that song, and I really played side 1 a lot on this. I didn't play side 2 near as much, but yeah, very great. Now this is an album I've shown a lot, I've talked a lot about, and I'm going to show it again because it's obvious. I played this probably 100 times easily the 6 or 7 years after it came out. All through the 80s. I was playing this all through the 80s. I think it's one of the best punk albums ever. My favorite Ramones album from the 80s is Subterranean Jungle. And this came out in 83, I think. Some people don't like this one. It starts out with a little bit of soul, which is a cover, and I think it's fine. But man, once they get to Outsider and then Highest Trails Above, the guitars on that I think are fantastic. And then they had the single Psychotherapy. Now, an album that might surprise some is Madness, Keep Moving. I thought this was a great album when it came out. They played Wings of a Dove on the radio. They played Michael Caine. And there was one other song on here. I don't know if it was Keep Moving. But yeah, there was a couple of songs that they played on K-Rock of this. And I dug it, man. I thought these guys had the potential to be the new Beatles. But nah. Once I saw them live, I realized their vocals aren't as good as the studio, and not near as good as the Beatles live. But yeah, it's a great album, man. And I dig their early stuff too, but that's one I played 100 times easy. Cockney Rejects, this is another one I've shown before. Greatest Hits Volume 1 and Greatest Hits Volume 2. I played both of those easily 100 times. They were one of my favorite Oi bands from the early 80s from the UK. And for those that don't know, it wasn't their great. It was just their first album. Their first 3 albums, they called them Greatest Hits Volume 1, 2, and 3. And the third one being a live one. The Cramps album that I probably played more than any of the others, at least when it came out. I played some of the early ones more now. This was a little more, wasn't quite as gritty and raw as the earlier ones. Really catchy songs. And I didn't know it at the time, but Poison Ivy plays all the guitar and all the bass on this. Very impressive. A Date with Elvis by the Cramps. Now the one Butthole Surfers album that I played was this one, Independent Worm Saloon. Now I played the other ones a lot, but I had this on CD and I played it in the car, so it kind of puts it definitely above the others as far as how many times I've played it. The album is fantastic, especially side one, man. It starts off with Who Was in My Room Last Night, and it ends with Dancing Fool. And in between you got Chewing George Lucas's Chocolate. Just a great album. This might be a little controversial, but this is the Metallica album that I've listened to the most. And again, it's because I had it on CD. I didn't have the first three, on vinyl. I remember hearing songs from For Justice for All, but I didn't buy it. I had the Garage Days EP. I don't know where that came out, but yeah, I bought this when it came out, and it's the one I played the most. I had it on CD. I played it in the car a lot. But yeah, the cool kids are going to say, no, the first three are way better. But I like them now. I bought this on the Walmart exclusive. And I bought the early ones all at the same time, Walmart exclusives. And I've been listening to them more. But this is by far and this is the only one I've listened to 100 times, besides that Garage Days EP. And we're going to end the decade, 89, with the Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique. I was kind of blown away. Now, the album that came out before this, I played easily 100 times. But this one, man, it was a little bit different groove. And I played this all the time, man. I would get home from work, I'd put it on, I'd start cooking dinner, and I was listening to this, and once it ended, I would put it on again. And I don't do that with a lot of records. But yeah, with this one I did. And you don't hear me talking about, it's a very important record. I hear a lot of channels talking about how important this record is. I don't care how important a record is. I only care how I like it. But this one did change music, because it had like 100 different samples. I mean, there's one song where they have 5 Beatles samples in it. So the copyright laws were changed after this. The 90s, John Lennon had a lost weekend. I had a lost decade. I mean, in the early 90s, I was listening to music, but not as much. And by the late 90s, not nearly as much. But this one came out in 2002, and I bought it on CD when it came out. It came out a year after Joey died, and I played that CD a lot, in the car, at home. Even my wife liked it. And his version of What a Wonderful World, it's so touching when you realize he knew he was dying when he recorded that. But yeah, this is full of really great. And I bought this I think it's a record. Yeah, I didn't buy this until it came out on Record Store Day. I had the CD. Now I'm going to show 3 more that I believe all came out in the teens. And this is Courtney Barnett. It's actually a combination of her first 2 EPs. And it's the double EP, A Sea of Split Peas. Just fantastic. Kind of quirky lyrics. I just love her songwriting. I love her album that came out after these. And yeah, this came out in 2013. And it's fantastic. I really dig her. My wife's not that big of a fan. Another one that probably came out around that 2013 time. Yeah, it did. Is Foxygen. What is the name of this? We are the 21st century ambassadors of peace and magic. this is great. I think it's their best album. It's got really catchy songs, kind of like 60s tinged vibe to it. The song San Francisco, I don't know if it's that well known. It's the one my wife loves. So I think it's the one that could be like, that almost anybody would love it. But yeah, it's fantastic. All the side one is fantastic. It's got a song that sounds like the Velvet Underground, and really cool 60s vibe to this. And we're going to end it with Diane Coffey, My Friend Fish, who actually was the drummer of Foxygen. I guess Foxygen took a little bit of a break after this album, and this dude recorded on his own in his apartment, I guess using an Apple phone and an Apple computer for the most part. I believe he does most of the instruments, if not all. And it's really a great album, man. It's got some soulful stuff. It's got some rockers, and it's a really, it kind of blew me away. And these two albums I found out about in Shindig magazine, a great magazine. I don't buy magazines anymore, but that's a great magazine. And yeah, that's it, man. I think that's 31 albums I listened to 100 times. Now you might be wondering, why am I doing it at this angle? It dawned on me that this is my good side. So why am I doing the videos this way, you know? Anyways, take care, everybody.